Welcome everyone to this fourth edition of Talk4Legal, a show where we discuss news, tips and tricks about hot topics in the legal tech space. I'm very excited to be on this panel today, as it's in collaboration with the Legal Technologist, a leading legal tech publication. I'm sure Marc will tell you more about that. Today, we're discussing a very hot topic in the legal world. We'll be talking about the contract lifecycle management document automation, the benefits, and the challenges for legal teams to do CLM transformations. A little info about myself. My name is Feras. I'm the founder and CEO of Talk4Legal, a multinational leading comprehensive legal practice management and contract lifecycle management platform with clients in 65 countries in different industries, including law firms of different sizes, in-house legal teams in banks, telcos, governmental, education, and much more. I will now hand it over to our moderator for this edition, Marc May from the Legal Technologist, who will introduce the rest of the panel and start the discussion. Marc?
Thanks, Feras. It's good to be here today in this session, especially talking about something that I really enjoy talking about, which is CLM. So I'm a bit jealous of the panel today who gets to talk about it. I just ask the questions. So I suppose a little bit of background about the Legal Technologist and about me in particular. Legal Technologist is a magazine I founded probably about 3 years ago now, and this was back in a time when it wasn't really that clear where legal tech was being used and who was using it and how it was being used, and not only that, I suppose, which roles were actually out there for legal tech. So I founded the Legal Technologist, and it's come on leaps and bounds since then. And I'm excited about the partnership that I have and the Legal Technologist has with Talk4Legal, and I'm kind of excited for this session. In terms of myself, I've got a background in document automation and CLM, implementing it in various different places, be it in law firms or in big corporates, global corporates. I still enjoy doing it. I love doing it. And I suppose my role, my day job role is as a director at a consultancy implementing CLM. But I'm also, as I said, founder of the Legal Technologist and the co-founder of Bristol Legal Hackers. I'll go through a bit of an agenda right now. So we'll start off with some intros and go through the panel. They'll give a few minutes about themselves. I guess Feras has already given a little bit of an intro, but for the purposes of this, we'll go through Ben and Santiago, and they'll give a couple of minutes. Then we're going to go through a kind of structured session. I go through some questions, and we're going to go through like the current processes, kind of what corporates are doing at the moment. Why do they even need technology for CLM? And then we'll look at the solution, the possible solutions that are out there, and then after that, which is probably the key takeaway, which would be the preparation for that implementation, and then we'll finish up with the Q&A at the end. So I suppose without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Ben first, and he can give a bit of an intro.
Sure. Thanks, Marc. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Ben. I have a legal background. I've worked in legal innovation for several years now, predominantly in law firms. I've experienced working with several document automation tools, and then recently have gained some experience working with the more kind of all-in-one CLM systems. I joined Syke Legal Engineering as a consultant late last year, and then have recently been managing a project where we're implementing a CLM system for a large financial institution. And yeah, an interesting fact about me is that I recently helped set up a cricket team. We had our first match that was unfortunately rained off on Sunday, and anyone based in the southeast of England will know exactly the downpour I'm referring to. So yeah, thanks, and really looking forward to the discussion.
So sad that it was a washout on the first match.
I know.
It's always the thing.
Yeah, but many more sunnier matches to come, I hope.
Fingers crossed. Although knowing British weather, it's your chances are evens. Santiago, if you just give an intro.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Santiago. I also have a background in law. I qualified in Costa Rica and in England as well. I did some work as in-house for 6 years with a large company, but I really wanted to explore how technology and innovation can really make changes into kind of delivery of legal services and efficiency. Really, I think as we all know, the legal industry is probably lacking in that space, or much work to be done. I came to the UK. I joined Syke, where I had the pleasure of working with Ben and Marc, implementing CLM technology for big companies. And most recently, I joined Google in their legal operations team, and it's quite exciting. So I guess I'm happy to see you both again, and happy to be on this panel.
Thanks, Santiago. It's good to see you again also. So I suppose without further ado, we'll kick off the questions. And if we jump straight into the current processes, I suppose the topic of the conversation is about CLM. But before we kind of zero in on CLM, perhaps we can take a look at the legal technology market in general. And maybe put it over to you first, Feras. I mean, if we look at the legal technology market and as a legal tech vendor, like how are things going? What is your view on it at the moment? Is it the sort of thing that's booming, or is it kind of more sort of subdued now that lockdowns are over and maybe law firms and organizations have done what they needed to do to get the job done over the pandemic, or yeah, as I said, are things booming?
Yes, indeed. So we noticed an important growth in the demand, not only on the CLM, but on the transformation to an adoption of technology in legal teams, in-house legal teams, and the private law firms, in fact, in the second quarter of 2020, where the pandemic became serious. I mean, the teams decided to enable work from home and the collaboration remotely. Usually legal teams are small teams in corporates, so you can see banks or telcos running with a couple of dozen of collaborators within a legal department. And law firms, for sure, it depends on the size of the law firm, from small to mid to large. Now, the issue with the technology, I mean, the adoption of technology with the pandemic, is how to connect not only people from the legal team, but how to connect all the stakeholders within a life cycle. People they need to meet to take decisions. They need to work together. They need to share information. They need to send information and receive information and amend and so on and so forth. So we've seen this huge, I mean, the curve of adoption of technology in the quarter 2 in 2020, and since then we're doing a lot of inbound out there. Now, if we talk about the contract lifecycle management itself, yes, it's a topic that is becoming a must-have of transformation, not anymore a nice to have or you know, a legacy, sorry, a luxurious need in a legal team to have a solution in place. The legal team, as I said, are capable to handle over emails and exchanges, but the stakeholders are struggling. And you know, when it comes to collaboration, time is money, right? So you need just to find a way to break silos. It's booming since then. Contract lifecycle management and document automation, a huge demand since last year on the adoption. For sure, clients are facing huge challenges in this transformation, and I'm sure we'll be discussing much more on that. As a legal tech editor, we are doing a lot of transformation for enterprise environments mainly. Okay, so whether in law firms or in-house legal teams like telcos, banks, governmental departments, groups, education, non-profit, etc. Connecting the legal team together on the CLM with their third parties, their collaborators, their external advisors, and so on and so forth. And this is really what we're doing currently in a very you know, in a very busy period, I would say.
Thanks, Feras. And I suppose if we do zero in on CLM in particular, I suppose we should take a look at what it is that technology is actually improving. So I don't know, Santiago, do you want to kind of briefly explain what the kind of typical current process is for an organization? What is the CLM process that could be improved through technology?
Sure. I mean, I think you know, the larger our organization gets, the more sophisticated a process, the contracting process is, and even, you know, the more diverse in terms of, you know, different types of contracts that need different types of processes and reviews, etc. But, you know, all in all, I would say that you know, there usually might be some sort of repository with templates that are common, so that business users can, you know, take those, or probably stored in some drive. And if, you know, from that point on, it kind of depends on what level of negotiation needs to be done with other parties. So they either send that on themselves, and you know, if it's procurement, they might negotiate back and forth, or, you know, there's typically a layer of approvals to even before the contract goes out, which is the typical example, really. People need to approve it, finance, legal, compliance, who that may be. And I think, you know, looking at CLM, that's probably one of the pain points that it comes to solve, right? I think I'm probably getting ahead of myself here, but those internal approvals, those kind of stamps, there's emails going back and forth, and, you know, I guess email is what is acting as a sort of CLM approval tracking system, you know, because everything is just done by email, and there's no real traceability of who approved when and what. So it can become a real problem if you're trying to track down whether a contract was approved, whether it has been signed off, etc. And then, you know, if you look at it in terms of, you know, phases, what happens at the back end when the contract finally is executed, it comes back, you know, where is it stored? It used to be, when I was in-house, it used to be that no one thought they owned the contract. So legal said, we don't own the contract, the business owns the contract. So who actually needs to store this contract, and who knows where this is? You know, you get turned, you know, people leave, things are in some drawer in a desk. So, you know, that's another part, kind of at the tail end of the process, that becomes complex to manage if you don't have a system in place that allows you to really track, store, send, you know, do the markups, the redlining, etc. So yeah, it can become a real pain. Sorry, a long-winded answer to the question, I think, but
no, that's fine. I mean, I think that's probably one of the key points there, right? The ability to audit your your contracts, and where you know where they are in the process, and who needs to approve it, and at what time, things like that, and when they approved it and when they signed, things like that. I think things like that tend to be lacking, I suppose, without technology. And I mean, I think a lot of people, kind of speaking for the panel, I suppose, but I think a lot of people are using email as that method of understanding who's approved when, and storing those emails on some drive somewhere, possibly. I don't know, Ben, do you have a view also on, I suppose, what you tend to see? So with a particular client, I mean, I understand that you do the implementation of CLMs. So what is the starting point for them? Like what is their current process? What is it you're hoping to improve ultimately?
Yeah. So I think it's what's already been said, really. We're hoping to really reduce risk and make sure that nothing falls through the crack, I guess. But I suppose when you're looking at a current process for a business, each business defines what the contracting process is differently. So it's never like one size fits all. But of course, like within that, there are some discernible features to the contracting process that you can look at, like in understanding what problems you need to solve, really. So the first thing, is getting that list of qualified suppliers or counterparties that have been vetted through a KYC AML process, and trying to look at, okay, how can we integrate that with the system, and how can we make sure that we're pulling down all of the correct address details and all this kind of stuff. And also how are we going to factor in if the counterparty isn't in that list? If a lawyer is pressured and they need to add a new counterparty entry, it's things like this that's really good to think about. And then of course, like the big one that we've been speaking a lot about recently, Marc, is the approach to templates. Like what are the templates that law firms have for those kind of common agreements, that contain those standard approved terms. And then it's very important to look at the styling, like how is the styling of those templates been applied? Is there an opportunity for to see what the template governance process is? Whether this is something that there's like a big style sheet that's agreed by something like a steering committee. If that's in place, great. If it's not, then let's have a look at implementing a process like this. And then, of course, the thing that I think Santiago picked up on is that negotiations piece, which is really significantly improved through CLM, because you're able to track the negotiations with a third party in a much better way than what you can currently. And then also it's about managing what the closing, what the termination of the contract is also going to be. And then of course one piece that I missed out just after negotiations is the organization using DocuSign or something similar to get to execution, or is that something that we need to look at? And lots of CLM providers now have that e-signature piece sorted, and you can also factor in if the contract needs to go to multiple signatories. These are kind of standard. These tools kind of provide that standard configuration where this kind of automation of that signature process can take place.
Yeah, I totally agree with the last one. I think it's probably something that will come up a little bit later in the talk about connectivity and integration and the sort of future of legal practice, I suppose. I think my next two questions were kind of covered off to some extent by what has been discussed so far, but I suppose broadly I'd split the problems that businesses face down to kind of two main areas. One is that what do legal professionals in particular face, and the other one is more about what the business itself faces. So I think even within that we covered some of them, but probably not all of them. I guess for legal professionals, like their kind of knowledge management, for example, could be kind of vastly improved when it comes to adopting technology. But I suppose for the lawyers themselves, I suppose, be it in law firms or be it in-house, is there what other issues do they face? Maybe I'll give the microphone to Feras. What other issues does the legal team, so particularly I suppose with in-house teams, like are there any other kind of issues that they face?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we've noticed several, I mean, the main issues or the main challenges legal teams are facing, our teams noticed working with the legal teams directly or with our partners, implementers of CLM solutions, a couple of main topics. First of all is the control. And I would say the control, and I agree with Ben and Santiago on the part of the templates, the steering committee controlling the content itself. The control is a main issue when it comes to contracts database and clauses database and compliance and regulations and liabilities and risk and so on and so forth. Like really a big number of variables out there. But at the same time, so you have the control, and you have at the same time you have the speed, right? And how to accelerate the execution of a contract where you need to keep control. And this is really the big challenge, that when you take a team working together within the organization, not only the legal team, but also the stakeholders working with the legal team, and you put them distributed in different countries, in different working from home or working remotely, this is becoming a serious challenge. Okay, and how to keep the reasonable, cost-effective execution of a contract from day one of initiation until its execution. And after that, you need for sure to manage. So this is the for our teams. They noticed that this was the huge challenge: how to keep control and versus acceleration of, reduce the time needed or the life cycle needed for a contract execution. This is one. Second, the second problem that our teams noticed while working with legal teams, whether in law firms or in-house legal teams, is the visibility. So it's a fact today that people are working by emails, right? This is a fact where people are sending emails to legal teams, and legal teams are replying by emails and attaching documents and so on and so forth. This is a fact today. How to keep the second challenge I'm talking about here is the visibility, not only for legal people but for the stakeholders working on this. The contract life cycle, from sales department, from HR when it comes to labor law, from procurement when it comes to suppliers management and contract renewal and contracts amendment and so on and so forth. And for sure the management for the approval things, the approval centers, the signing as Ben mentioned, like the integration with e-signature signing, where people are not physically present today. I mean, since last year, many firms, they changed the way they are sharing such information. So lack of visibility is the second challenge. And I would say the manual things that are legacy things that are still out there, and this is a huge, I would call it will for transformation, because you need to adopt not only a technology. I mean, you can have the best CLM in the market, but if there's no proper change management and will for end users, and not only end user, for all the players, not only the owners of the contract, all the players working on a contract management, if you don't have this buy-in, even if you have the best technology in place, I mean, your solution will fail. Even if you have the best implementer in place, the best processes in place, they will fail. So these are the main three challenges that our teams noticed while working with legal teams, whether in law firms or in in-house legal teams. Law firms is the approach is totally different. You know, it's it's top bottom. It's really management, and it goes to all the employees. I mean, all the stakeholders in the law firm, because at the end of the day, you have management decision and buy-in from top down. Where in-house legal teams, the challenge is here, and you have the buy-in is coming from bottom up. Okay, so it's really the opposite way of dealing with such challenges. Law firms top bottom, and in-house legal teams bottom up. Make sense?
Makes sense. I guess just to follow on, I did say before we all started that I wouldn't throw out any curveballs, but I couldn't resist. So you were talking there about lawyers and change management. So do you think that with legal training these days, there should be more, or at least the optional modules that deal with IT project management, change management, things like that, so that they can get involved with these sort of projects and be a bit more in their comfort zone? Because I appreciate that for a number of lawyers, IT project management is definitely a bit alien.
Absolutely, and I think legal professionals should be project managers by excellence. I mean, should be the first people certified project managers, because every single legal request is a project itself. Every single legal request requires a lot of tasks and subtasks and deadlines and distribution of these tasks and managing these tasks, and pay attention to the deadlines and the dependencies of each task, because a task can be a prerequisite for another, and if it's late, it will impact the other task. And yes, I mean, all of these topics usually are treated when you are trained in project management and task management. We've seen a trend recently on the legal space to have certifications with agile project management. And having, I don't know if I don't need to go very technical here, but what we call the Kanban methodologies, and the way how you get the job done faster, okay, and how to accelerate the assignments of tasks, the distribution of tasks to get the job done with high level of productivity and visibility. So yes, I totally recommend and I totally advise, before going into more advanced trainings, is to have the principles of project management. And if you don't have the organization skills, the project management skills, how to manage a team and how to get the job done. In fact, when you have people distributed and you just need to monitor the task management over processes and workflows and dashboards.
Definitely makes sense. Santiago, do you have a view?
Yeah, can I just add to that? I mean, so yeah, I think in terms of, if we look at this in terms of the adoption of CLM and what does that do for a legal department, how to manage that, to your question, in most occasions, it is the legal person who is maybe internally driving this project, or is a key stakeholder. So what is definitely critical is for those people to understand that this project impacts many areas. I don't know. I think we'll talk about that also. But in terms of expectation leveling, the legal team and the legal sponsor or the legal project manager, whoever that is, have to really come to terms with the fact that this is not something that is just plug and play. It takes a lot of design work. It takes training. It takes time, and then So I think for folks out there who are thinking about this, and people who are in the legal field with no, like you said, previous IT project management experience, might be good to talk with people in the IT team, etc., and to make sure they're on board, rather than trying to take that on yourself. because I agree with Feras. You know, if everyone could kind of be certified in Agile, that would be fantastic. But I think, you know, sometimes that's just you know, too much for a lawyer. So who's already very busy, probably.
Thanks, Santiago. And Ben, any views on that before we move on?
Yeah, just briefly agree with everything that's been said. I think yeah, it's probably going to be a bit challenging for a lawyer to upskill on any kind of Kanban methodologies. But when I have shown lawyers project management tools in the past, like Asana, Jira, Trello, those kind of things, it's been received really well. There was one lawyer with whom I used to work who actually got one of those project management tools to manage a project herself. So yeah, and then completely agree, Santiago, that it is essential to get the IT team on board as soon as possible, really.
Excellent. You turned him or her. I guess to finish up with the current processes section, I suppose my last question, yeah, kind of being a little bit like devil's advocate here, and I suppose it's to the floor. But is CLM, or the implementation of CLM technology, more relevant to businesses rather than law firms? So I put it to the floor to whoever wants to take it on.
I can start if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so I don't think it's really apple to apple comparison. I would say there are different types of law firms out there. So you have law firms where it's more focus on transactional, corporate, and other law firms focusing more on the corporate side of the story and the contract drafting or contracts expertise in certain industries or in certain verticals. Where in-house they do contract lifecycle management by default. Okay, so any corporate will be handling contracts, okay, or documents like employment agreements, NDAs, suppliers, I mean services agreement, consultancy agreement. This is really the daily bread of any in-house legal team, right? But you can find out there law firms with I mean, not dealing with contracts on or document automation on daily basis. But for both of them, I mean, when we treat a law firm handling contracts and in-house legal teams handling contracts, there are some common areas, right? The common areas mainly are in the middle, right? When the contract is initiated and the drafting within the legal team collaborating, an approval center. Okay, so the approving the contract within the legal team. These are common, I would say, steps or pit stops. A contract can have, I mean, contract lifecycle management can be common for both law firms handling contracts and in-house. However, the challenges handling contract management for in-house legal teams are totally different from law firms. Okay, so took a law firm, they receive a contract reviewing or contract validation or contract drafting from an external party, from their clients, right? And once it's received, for the client, it's a black box. So it's really in a kitchen where we need to cook it and we need to see how much it takes time and all of this and drafting until it's delivered. If you take this black box to the in-house legal team, it's not a black box, it's an open box. And you have people with every single step and a ping pong internally, phone calls, emails, chatting over the collaboration solutions to get the job done. So it's not the same processes, it's not the same workflow, and it's not the same workflow within the in-house also, because it depends on the size of the industry, of the language, of many things. So and I think Ben can add a lot about this, but because this is what Syke, I think, doing, like designing these workflows. There's no workflow that fits everyone. Okay, for in the industry, every single business has its own workflow. Every single team structure has its own workflow. So the team structure, not only of the legal team, but of the organization, what is the approval center, how we approve, what is the approval matrix, what type of contracts we're signing, what type of clauses we're dealing with. Are we dealing with one language contract or multi-language contracts, and so on and so forth. So it's not a one solution. It's not a magic that you just come with a solution on the market, you just sign up and plug and play and you work on it. I mean, I would say it's too good to be true to be in an enterprise environment like that. For solo lawyers, small law firms, yes, there's a lot of solutions out there in the market. They are very capable and out of the box. But when it comes to enterprise implementation, there's always customization and configuration of the workflow. Otherwise, it will be a nightmare. I mean, the technology will be a nightmare on the legal team, right? So you buy something and you have a negative return on investment on it, and people will be frustrated, and so on and so forth. So this is the contract lifecycle. I mean, this is when we compare law firms and in-house. I will let Ben and Santiago add on what I said.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, I can. Yeah, so I can add. So just to answer the question, whether CLM is more relevant to businesses than it is to law firms. No, I don't think so. I think both need more control over their contract management processes. You know, both need clearer insights over their contract estate. And you know, that can help for all the reasons that we discussed earlier. The only kind of thing that makes me hesitate a bit and say maybe CLM is a bit more relevant for businesses is that, you know, what law firms are doing is more specialized, I suppose. You know, they are who businesses go to when they have those really thorny kind of contractual documents that they need drafting and that kind of thing, and also when things go to litigation. So that might be the only thing where I'd say that maybe it's more suitable for businesses, because it might be harder for law firms, you know, to build things like clause libraries, which is where you really start to leverage some of the value from CLM systems. But ultimately, I think it's equally applicable. I think CLM systems are equally applicable to businesses and law firms.
Okay, good. I think they were both great answers. Yeah, I was playing devil's advocate. I didn't have a particular view on it. I was just curious to see what the view from the floor was. So I think that just about covers off the current processes section. And now we can move on to the solution section. So what is it that, how can technology ultimately improve those CLM, those current processes? It's probably the number one question. So if I pass that one over to Santiago, like how is it that the issues that we've discussed before, in terms of the current processes, either to the legal professionals themselves or to the business more broadly, how does a technological solution fit into that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, we've referenced a lot of this already, but and I like how you put it, Feras. You know, it's visibility, speed, and control. And so if we kind of try to break those down, I will start with visibility, because you know, there's a lot of dimensions of it. It's, you have a system that allows the company to or allows, you know, the users to self-serve contracts. So no more kind of editing templates, like editing, I'm going to call them sort of dead Word documents, you know, where they can self-serve those documents, where there is an automated approval process, which allows for traceability. Let's say, you know, you can also send it to other parties. There's version control for redlining purposes. And so, you know, a lot of the challenges that we face, even the final, the execution part as well. And so you get control, but in terms of visibility, you now know how many contracts are churned, you know, every week, every month, every year. You have an idea of those numbers. Depending on the data that you are collecting in various ways, depending on the system, you also have insights into the underlying data within those contracts, which is, I think, is going to be kind of increasingly critical and important for business. So it's not just how many contracts have we signed this year, which is, I think, a function that any CLM can provide, but also, okay, what was the total revenue? What is the revenue that is at risk? What is the you know, what is the portion of spend allocated per vendor? You know, those sorts of insights from commercial, you know, from your contracts, just deliver value, you know, to many areas of the business. So I'll allude to those points to kind of leave the others some room for comment here already, but I think those would be just kind of, you know, some of the primary benefits of CLM.
Totally makes sense. If I pass it over, yeah, okay, go for it, Feras.
Yes, I mean, I'm gonna add a little bit some insights that we observed working with GCs mainly on the adoption of technology. So usually technology, not only for legal, for any business team, it adds 4 main benefits. Okay, 4 main benefits. The first is the tracking of the information, and tracking of the information is not for the fun of tracking, because it's just not because I need just to track the information. It's because of many things. Let me give you an example. For banks, tracking the information is a must-have, because they have the compliance, the regulations, and all of this, right? Tracking legal information is a red line on this particular part. So first point is tracking, and for many other industries is you have similar needs also. So tracking of the information, okay, organizing the information in a very organized, I mean, in a comprehensive way, because today you can have a shared network drive on your disk where you put your documents and you put your folders and subfolders and drag your folders out there, right? But this is not a database. So you have the attachments, but you don't have the metadata of it. Where if you look at the technology today, what technology is adding to this is the metadata, okay? Where your assets as a company are not anymore the attachment themselves. They are the metadata, because you cannot analyze the attachments. However, you can analyze the metadata. Okay, now you can tell me that some organization, they put the metadata in an Excel sheet or Google Sheets, right? Yes, but Excel is an excellent tool for me, not for my team. I cannot work easily on Excel and see who added what and when, who modified what and when in an Excel cell. Okay, and this is a huge in the legal process, because you need to know who amended that, who amended this, and when it was done, and all of this. And this you cannot do it in Excel. So first point is tracking. Second point, organizing in a comprehensive and structured way. Okay, this is what technology is doing. Third, which is very important today after the pandemic, is the collaboration, right? How I can collaborate with my colleagues, how to collaborate on a contract drafting, how to collaborate on a contract approval workflow, how to negotiate a certain clause with my colleague, and so on and so forth. This requires technology in place in order to have the right tool, not any tool, not an IT tool, not Jira, not Trello, not Asana, because all of these are IT tools for any business. No, we're talking about a vertical solution that talks the language of legal professionals. And this is, but adopting this kind of collaboration, right? So this high level of collaboration, technology will resolve it. And last but not least is the control, right? The control. How to control is when you have the right dashboard, right? So you have a dashboard telling you. And here I have a funny story to share with you. I had this a small discussion a couple of days ago with GC in an event. I met with him in an event. He's a GC of a multinational group having more than 25 entities in 25 countries. Imagine, right? And I just asked him a simple question. Can you tell me what is the average time you're taking to execute a contract? Okay, he looked at the floor and he told me it depends. Sometimes we close a contract in 2 days, sometimes we close it in a few hours, and sometimes it takes, I don't know, more than 1 month to get it executed. I told him, okay, fine, I can understand. And my second question is, can you improve this? And here it was the surprise, like how to improve it. I have all my contracts tracked in a very way. He told me that my contracts are very well organized. We have a network drive, we have SharePoint, and they are tracked. And every single amendment, we version our contracts and we put it in the contract in the contract management. And we have a small Excel sheet where we put just the information about it. Excellent, right? I told him, okay, so how to improve your life cycle? How to get your contract? How you shrink your time to 1 day execution or 2 days of execution instead of a couple of weeks? He told me, I don't know, I need to look in the attachment and I need to analyze the emails because not all the contracts are assigned to the same person. And these kind of problems, if you don't have the right technology today, you cannot improve, you cannot control. So the equation is very simple for any business. What you can't measure, you can't improve, right? So if you don't measure, you don't improve. So this is what technology adds on the control part when you have a dashboard telling you how much you spend time between from the creation of the contract until it is ready for approval. How much you spend time from ready for approval until it is approved by the stakeholders. How much you spend from approved until awaiting for signature, and so on and so forth. So if you have a dashboard just giving you out of the box without any effort, telling you just measuring this dashboard, you will look at this dashboard and you say, oh, right, we have a bottleneck in collaboration between the legal and the procurement department. Let's resolve it. And you start resolving step by step, right? So what you can't improve, what you can't measure, you can't improve, right? And after that, you have dashboard for contract expiring next month, contracts expiring this quarter, contracts with liability more than contracts in a red liability things or risky or blah, blah, blah. So this is the control part, which is the element number 4 when you adapt a technology. Make sense?
Makes sense. I think that last point is particularly useful for anybody that's looking to build a business case around trying to procure legal technology in general, and in particular CLM. I mean, you will need to put across your return on investment ultimately. And if you've got nothing to measure it against, like for example, the time it takes, like as Feras was saying there about the time it takes for you to agree contracts or get it to particular points in the CLM process, then as Feras said, you can't measure your gain, and you can't understand how things have improved when you've implemented it. If I then pass on to Ben, I guess that we've covered a fair amount when it comes to the perks and the benefits of CLM. But were there any others that you see from your perspective that are also useful for clients?
So I completely agree with Santiago and Feras. I think, you know, all of the points that Feras laid out, completely agree with. And yes, that control point is an essential one, and also the one about metadata extraction, which I think Santiago referenced, is really one of the key benefits that you get through CLM. I think the other thing that I'd say is just a bit more of a general point. It does align to most companies' strategies. You know, whether this is like the environmental and sustainability strategy, because you're reducing paper ultimately through CLM. So that's kind of like one benefit. And then also, you know, most companies that we see they have a digital or a innovation strategy, and then implementing CLM clearly aligns to that as well. And then also an even more general point is that the legal market is heading in this direction. Pretty much everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people are moving towards implementing CLM now. So it just seems like the next kind of logical step to take.
It makes sense. If I move on now to what people are like, what lawyers are like, are lawyers hesitant about this sort of change within their organization, or are they excited about it? Like, I suppose I'll go really quickly through all three of you, because I mean, you've all dealt with lawyers adopting CLM. Are they excited about it? Is it something that they're apprehensive about? Like, what sort of things do they what sort of concerns do they have? What more broadly, I suppose, not just about issues within their own organization and the CLM process within their own organization, but for them, I suppose, more personally. So if I give that to Santiago first.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't like to kind of generalize, because I do think that there are, you have your early adopters and people who want to try new things and who are curious about, technology that can potentially make their lives easier. So I'll say that I think one of the barriers may be, first of all, getting people to trust a system or a solution. And one of the reasons people might be apprehensive, well, can this thing really, from experience, is more from an in-house, is, can this thing really, solve everything, each and every use case that we have, because if it doesn't tick all the boxes, then it's no good. So, I think people will try to poke holes into the technology just because it doesn't solve each and every aspect of the contracting life cycle in the way specifically that they want it. So I think that's one example of what I've seen. And I think the other part of this would be, if is more, I guess, for the lawyers themselves, particularly in law firms, might be, who could be apprehensive because they think that if they, adopt automation, they might automate themselves out of a job, because if people can self-serve contracts, then less work for them. I would say that's not the majority of people. I will say now there's probably a chunk of people who think that way. Whether that's merit, there's people who say, well, and I'm more of a believer that these tools are going to open up different career paths and are going to just sort of enhance the way lawyers work, not replace lawyers. So yeah, those are two kind of different ways to answer that question. So people who are apprehensive for perhaps different reasons. So I'll just say those two. Yeah.
That was good. Maybe you can zero in on the second point that you had there, because from the conversations that I've had in the past, this fear seems to prevail in kind of certain sections of the legal community. So, like the robots are going to take over and take everybody's job. Then, what my view is, it isn't true. But if I throw that one out there to the floor, maybe for you, Ben, first, a robot's going to take over. A lawyer's doomed.
No, I don't think so. Or at least not anytime soon. I think there's like a lot of emphasis placed on this, and I mean, I don't know. I might be proved wrong. Yeah, I think it's just kind of law is so difficult. And when a lot of people kind of say that legal innovation is moving really slowly in the legal sector, I kind of always think, well, hang on a second. I mean, law is pretty difficult. I mean, it's trying to cater for all of these different range of unique circumstances. And you can't just use exactly like what Santiago said. You can't have a load of process maps thrown at you from somebody in the legal department and then say, can we solve this? But equally, you can't use technology and try and imprint that onto a legal department, whether that's in a business or a law firm.
Yeah, totally agree. And I guess Feras, your view.
Yes, I'm gonna comment a little bit about the adoption of technology challenges and before, just in a few seconds, and before answering the robot point. Look, the point of technology, I mean, we've seen a huge will of adopting technology from legal teams, whether they are law firms or in-house legal teams. I mean, it's not, the pandemic accelerated a lot of things out there. The pandemic, I mean, even after pandemic, teams get to use to work in with certain processes, right? Some law firms created what we have, the work from home flexibility for their attorneys. In-house legal teams, they are by default distributed, and they started to hire in different countries, reducing the cost. So even if you have, for example, the headquarters in London, but you started to hire within the legal team in different countries, maybe to reduce the cost or to solve a certain geographical need. So the technology, the will is there to adopt technology. However, the challenges faced by decision makers from legal teams can be categorized with a couple of points. The main point is the adoption of technology itself, the digitization, and how the process can be heavy for certain organizations, right? So how to digitize a process that used to be open. Open, it means anyone can contact the legal team, and the legal team can answer in an unstructured way with emails, meetings, phone calls, etc. And digitizing this process, this is a transformation itself. I'm not talking about the technology now. I'm not talking about the solution. I'm talking about the process itself that used to be something, and now you need to do it in a different way. Better or not, it's different. And people usually, business users, resist to change to any changes of that. Now, the second point is, legal teams are struggling with the legacy information. So if you go to any single company, they have a couple of dozens of years of data sitting out there somewhere. Okay, these attachments can be on the laptop of the legal advisor, can be on a shared network drive, can be somewhere. And this legacy data, if you don't find a solution for them to migrate them to the new technology, the legal department will resist to use the system, right? Because imagine that you're a legal professional, you need to work on a certain case or a certain contract, and you have half of the information in a software, in a very, very nice software, but the legacy information somewhere else. And each time you need to look here and look there and come back to here and come back to there. So if you don't, legal teams will be struggling a little bit on this part. And this is very related to the nature of the attachments or of the data they have. If they have it in an old system, if they have it on a network drive, if they have it on papers. A lot of enterprise environment, they still have their contracts not digitized. They don't have the PDF files or the scans of these files in a system. And this is really a huge point to resolve when a legal team need to decide to adopt a technology. The last point can be, the challenges of giving visibility and integrating with third parties. So you're not alone when you're working on a contract lifecycle management. You're not only the legal team. You have other stakeholders, and you need to tackle also their needs. The procurement department, the sales department, the HR department. Okay, you have your solution, but how those people will access the information? Do you need to give them access as a licensed users or unlicensed users, and this one of sorts? And here can be the project can be tackled from different perspectives, whether you implement something for the legal team or you implement something for the organization as a whole. And this is also a sort of challenge for decision makers to adopt technology, right? This decision making thing. Right, now to come back to your robot things, I don't think this is a concern for legal teams today. The main concern are the 3 points that I just listed for you. But the robot things, I mean, here I think legal teams are smart today. They are very aware about what's happening in the market, the artificial intelligence, the automation, how to do more with less, because they will do something else. I've never seen a business team adopting technology and reducing the number of effective. I've never seen this in my life. Like for more than 20 plus years of work with enterprise environment, each time we implement a software or a platform for a team to automate something, okay, the team is developed, they hire more, okay, and this is really what we are observing in the legal. Why? Because the technology will develop the business of the company, and the legal team is part of this productivity.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. I guess to put you on the spot, I know that the Talk4Legal has their own contract management tool at the moment, module. I guess I will give you the floor for a minute or so, just to go through how it is the solution.
Yes. So if you go to Talk4Legal website, you'll see that Talk4Legal is a suite of products, modules, and add-ons. And the aim is very simple: is that you scale them the way you want. So we have products, modules, and add-ons that are for law firms, more law firms oriented, and we have others that are more in-house oriented. The beauty of this suite of products that are like pieces of a puzzle, they can plug together as a puzzle out of the box. Now, to talk a little bit more into in details about the contract lifecycle management. So if we tackle the contract lifecycle as steps, so we tackle all the needs for legal teams to manage their templates, the templates library, where you can put some rules and some automation on the template things, and customize the way they want without the intervention of IT people. And this is the friendliness on it. So they have the access to the metadata and to the attachment at the same time. The second part is in the contract lifecycle, so the workflows, the automation, where highly configurable way of categorizing the contracts, and by categorizing the contracts, putting workflows on these type of contracts, customizing these workflows, managing the steps, the SLAs, the OLAs, and all of this in a very comprehensive and friendly way, without a huge intervention from, without important intervention from IT people. The drafting of the contract itself and the library of clauses in different languages. So you have the platform available and supporting different languages, including left to right and right to left. And the drafting mechanism where you need to amend the contracts, negotiate, and create versioning of your documents with nice tools when it comes in for integration between Talk4Legal and Office 365 editors like Microsoft Word, or Google Enterprise like the Google Enterprise apps. So this is on the drafting part with the management of versioning and all of this. And after that, you have a particular chapter when it comes to approval center, right? Every single contract should go into an approval workflow. Approval workflow, it means for some type of contracts, I don't know, the CFO, the head of procurement, the head of legal should give their feedbacks and approve, reject, negotiate, these kind of things. right? So App4Legal, in this particular part, Tackle has big capabilities when it comes to implementing approval matrix, depending on the business rules, depending on the contract categories, and so on and so forth, right? Now, with the approval and negotiation, you have the next chapter is the execution, the signature. And here, it's either you manage the signature within App4Legal, embedded in App4Legal, or integrating with DocuSign, Adobe Sign. I mean, we integrate with DocuSign and Adobe Sign for this, and we're opening this for HelloSign and all the other e-signature, known e-signature in the market. And once it's executed, we have also chapters for amendments, renewals, controls, dashboarding, measuring all what I listed in the KPIs and the challenges in sophisticated dashboards, right? So all of this was advanced APIs to integrate with third-party systems, because when you implement a CLM in an enterprise environment, it's too good to be true to have an isolated system, right? It should integrate with the procurement supplier management system, with the ERP, with the CRM, and so on and so forth. So we have this also capabilities. As I said, it's multi-language, it's infrastructure agnostic. So the contract lifecycle management in App4Legal is available on cloud, can be hosted on-prem by the client on their own servers behind their firewalls, managed by their IT, and can be also on a private SaaS implementation within the jurisdiction. Multi-currency, multi-language, and infrastructure agnostic. I mean, that's it. I don't know if you have a particular question, but I tried to give a very high-level overview.
Thanks, Feras. Very, very comprehensive. I'll save the questions for just after the next section. So the last section, that just about wrapped up the solution part of the talk. I think the last one will be of interest, I'm sure, to a lot of people, is how to prepare for this type of implementation. And for that, I kind of broke it down into 4 different parts. So I broke it down into templates and workflows and integrations, and then also legacy migration. So these tend to be the 4 typical components of a CLM implementation. I suppose the integrations piece is probably a little bit more optional, perhaps, but you're still going to have your e-signatures, and legacy migration tends to be optional, but I mean, very useful indeed. So if I pass it to perhaps Santiago first, and let's take a look at like templates. How should in fact Ben, I'll give it to Ben. I know you have a love for the templates. So what should people do to prepare for an implementation in relation to templates?
I think it's a bit of a love-hate relationship that I've got with templates. Yeah, so I think first things first is seize the opportunity to to take control over your templates if they're not formatted according to a style guide. Make sure that you have a governance process in place. Whereby every kind of decision is routed through a steering committee or something like this, so that you can, really start to implement some sort of template governance process, so that you can make sure that that all of the templates that are going to be given to whoever will be implementing the CLM system are properly styled and are the most up-to-date and recent versions, containing all the standard approved text in there. I think that's one of the most important things to get right in relation to templates. Definitely need to be up to date, and I suppose from a output perspective, to have them all the portfolio consistent is highly beneficial. If I move on to workflow now, so what is the
what would you recommend people do to prepare for workflows? What kind of sessions should people do internally to make sure that they're prepped? I'll pass that to Santiago.
Sure. I mean, it goes back to one of the things that Feras said. I think it's important that the people who are in the, the stakeholders who are on the contracting process, who are just not legal, is part of these sessions. Designing, you want the people who actually know the end-to-end contracting process and interact with it on a day-to-day basis. It could be probably, if you're looking at the procurement side or the buy side, people from procurement, who, they need to be, at best, part of those sessions, give their input, and at worst, not blindside them, but with some process that you've not even informed them of. This was, when we were implementing legal tech, the main pushback was from people who were not made part of the process or didn't know, and the worst that could happen, or one bad thing that could happen, was someone, when you're along the implementation track, almost at the build stage, and the outcomes Bob from accounting and says, well, did you think about this? This process will not fly because you're not including so and so in the flow. And so it's very important to map your stakeholders and make sure they are a part of the design sessions, or at least make sure that you have some way of capturing that input. Because the other thing that you don't want is, everybody in a room with a view, and then you have, and everybody part of the project team, and then you have trouble kind of parsing through what's what and making any real progress. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It's almost like people throwing in a grenade into the project, like when people have been missed out and they come back with some curveball. And Feras, I mean, the importance of connectivity and integrations is definitely something that is going to come in the future. But quickly, what would you say people should prepare when it comes to integrations or think about?
So my quick advice for legal teams willing to implement CLM or document automation is to start simple. Right? Start simple. Don't complex things. I mean, don't make things really dependent from many other variables. So connections is very important, especially when it comes to when it comes to important collaboration between the legal team and some specific teams in the organization, like procurement, sales, HR. I mean, I'm giving always this information, these names, because the collaboration is high when it comes to contracts and document automation. Now, starting simple, and I mean, thinking global but acting local, and building on top of it. And this requires sometimes an expert to consult, to take advice of, because you can struggle in implementing a solution, and after that you'll figure out that now if we need to integrate with the supplier management or the CRM or the ERP, we have problems because we don't support this and that. And the collaboration here is important between the legal team and the IT team. If the legal teams have IT within the organization. If not, seek help from an expert in this legal tech transformation. It's not something huge. It's something very simple. It's an exercise that in few days you can really save a lot of future hassles. Now, on this part, starting with the legal department is always a best practice, and extending to other departments is by phases. So you can do like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 by solving the internal problems first of all, like in the contract, how to create a contract, how to track the contracts, how to organize the contracts, structure them, etc., etc. And after that, you start thinking how I can break the silence between me as a lawyer or as a legal professional and someone sitting in a different department. How to break the silence by automating the way we are collaborating, or by creating a channel of communication in the software itself. We call it portal. So instead of sending emails and receiving emails and attaching the Word file on the email and receiving manually V1 and V2 and make mistakes on the versioning, we try to automate this. This is what we call connecting and integrating, right? So this is where we start thinking how to let my software and the legal team to talk in a smart way with the software and the HR department or the procurement or the sales or X and Y and Z. I don't advise by starting integrating in all directions before getting experience. I mean, our teams always, they have this question from legal teams. We always advise to take this within the project milestones, but not to tackle it in milestone 1. Okay, so in milestone 1, a standalone solution that is open to integrate. In milestone 2, resolving the problem with integration, which is not mandatory, especially if it's not really important for the life cycle. So this is really how to do it, like in milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3. I mean, we're not talking about a huge timeline here, but this is how I mean, this is how you can implement a CLM in an effective way, in an efficient way, by saving money and by jumping directly into activities. I mean, instead of having really a huge transformation and a big bang inside your organization.
Thanks, Feras. And I suppose lastly, I'll put it to Ben for legacy migration. What things should people be considering before they even start looking at migrating their documents or metadata? And then I think after that, then we will conclude the session. And I think there's a few questions, and we can go through that quickly.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I think the first thing to do is just have a look and understand what the legacy migration capability is in the CLM system that you've purchased. You know, typically, you know, the capabilities of this can get a bit lost during the kind of pre-sales process. So really make sure that you understand the capabilities of the legacy migration component. And also another big one is, you know where your documents are stored. And if you have metadata, make sure that you understand whether this can whether a system will be able to work out of the box and be able to track that metadata, or whether you'll need to create some sort of customization to track kind of unique metadata to your organization. If you already have metadata, then you'll have to go through a process of data cleansing, and you'll have to make sure about where all of that data that's then been cleansed is going to sit. Is that going to sit in the CLM system? Is that going to sit outside? And that kind of thing. I think exactly like what Feras said, this stuff can get quite complex. So if you don't have the internal resource, then do bring in an implementation partner. And yeah, I think also, like, it's kind of connected to that point about knowing where your documents are stored, but that is an important part of like a security, like a kind of cyber security consideration that you shouldn't overlook.
Thanks, Ben. I think on that we'll conclude the session. It's been an enjoyable discussion about CLM, and we've gone through the kind of typical current processes and the issues that businesses or law firms face with CLM, and I suppose the reasons why those organizations then then implement technology which improves those processes. They've gone through a bit on the solution, and then finally we've gone through in, I guess, quite shortly, kind of recommendations on what can be done to prepare for those type of implementations. So I suppose just to finish off, there were a few questions. So the first one is how this COVID-19 how did COVID-19 transform the legal industry in particular, and what it will look like after the pandemic? Now, new challenges emerge as the tech market diversifies, and companies are looking out for best fit digital solutions when it comes to digitizing contracts. What are some of the good CLM platforms out there in the market? Which is a good question. If I throw this out there for, I guess, a 30-second response, if I go around to everybody. So if Santiago, you start, then Feras, then Ben, and then.
Sure. I mean, for the first part of the question, has it transformed the legal industry? We've referenced this. The pandemic was an accelerant of trends, accelerated the, I think, adoption of technology. More what technology in particular? I think e-signatures. Pretty basic. It's been around for ages, but definitely that's one. Automation, collaboration. It I think was a way to really jumpstart some of the trends that we've been seeing, perhaps even in other industries. So I think, all in all, in that respect, accelerated adoption of technology. I think that's a good thing in general. Some of the good CLM platforms. I mean, that is a thing which goes to the challenge of this market. I think that it is more and more a competitive space. Feras will probably can tell you more about that. But more and more competitors each year. I don't necessarily want to plug any of the tools out there. I know that Talk4Legal has one. We all love the players out there. DocuSign, Icertis, Conga, Agiloft, etc. are some of the names I can think of.
Good response. Okay, and then Ben, and then sorry, I know I did give an order. Okay, Ben, and then Feras. There's another question that I'll ask immediately before you give a response. Hopefully an easy one.
Yes. I think COVID-19 has massively transformed the legal industry. I think the biggest transformation has been probably online courts. I remember at the start of the pandemic reading a tweet from someone that I follow who said that they just won a court of appeal case from their living room, and that words can't quite describe how bizarre that was. So I think that's been the biggest transformation. But I think, yeah, definitely like what Santiago said. I kind of hope that COVID-19 has sped up or accelerated adoption of CLM technology, because it can help. It really can help. Law firms and in-house legal teams. And then the good CLM platforms out there, I would say Icertis and DocuSign, probably. They are the two kind of market leaders.
Thanks, man. And Feras? I mean, I've got
Yes.
a feeling I know what the answer to the second question will be.
Yeah, exactly. So the first question for the COVID. So you remember I talked about 4 points in my intervention at the beginning about the technology and the impact and the impact on the COVID is on one of them. So I talked about the tracking of the information, organizing the information, collaboration, and control, the dashboard. So eventually the COVID impacts directly the collaboration part. Okay, so the legal teams will need to find a way to resolve the problem of collaboration, because people are not anymore within the same room. I mean, during COVID, they were not in the same room. They were not in the same building. They are distributed. Not only the legal team, but also the requesters for the legal team and the clients of the legal team. They are not on the same country anymore, right? Or the same city anymore. This is what the COVID impacted. And I think because the COVID, I mean, because we're still in the COVID and we're still resolving the consequences of the COVID, I think this is something, part of it is becoming business as usual, right? Where many companies, if we've seen on the social media, many big names announced that after COVID, they will restructure the way they are dealing, they will restructure the way, they will re-engineer the way they are hiring people remotely. We are one of these companies, by the way. Our teams are distributed in 9 countries today. I have colleagues in my company and that I never met face to face. And I work with them on daily basis, right? So I think this is the new normal, where after COVID, and every single legal team, whether law firms or in-house legal teams, they need to take this into consideration, because their lawyers and their legal professionals will receive offers to work in companies adopting this remote work and work from home. This might be an advantage for some employees, and maybe a disadvantage for others. But anyway, it's the new normal, and everyone, I mean, we need to adapt to this new normal. Now, on the second part, eventually I cannot be very objective out there, but what I can say, if you are looking for a contract lifecycle management for technology, Talk4Legal is available for a free trial. Our experts can help you to check it out. There's a lot of capable solutions in the market out there. We have a very comprehensive one, and you can check it. I mean, there's no commitment. Our experts will be more than happy. If you reach out to them, they will be more than happy to assist you.
Thanks, Feras. And the last one, before we wrap up, I guess we've got a minute to go. So the last question is, we are a law firm in Dubai, UAE. I guess is the template, or are the templates provided in Talk4Legal, can they be used in UAE and GCC as well? So just in short.
I think Ben and Santiago, they don't want to answer this question, so I will take it. So we have a partnership that we'll announce soon. So my short answer is, Talk4Legal doesn't provide legal content itself. So we don't provide a legal content library. However, we integrate, I mean, we support and we are compatible with LexisNexis legal content library, and we integrate with, and we're collaborating with LexisNexis in GCC and in the Middle East. Again, reach out to our experts and we can provide more information about that. The second library we integrate with is Sadr. I mean, it's a special library for GCC, Arabic, Middle East, is Sadr Law. So we have also, we also integrate with this legal content library. I mean, again, it's a topic that feel free to reach out to our team and they will give you more information about that.
Thanks, Feras. And thanks everybody that's joined the panel today, Ben and Santiago as well. I've really enjoyed that session and the discussion about it. I guess we've gone off on a little bit of a tangent at times, and there's been a few curveballs, but I hope you've all enjoyed the session. And for those that join later and view the video, I hope you also enjoy it too. So thanks everybody. Thanks for your questions, and I'm sure I'll speak to you all soon.
Thanks, Marc.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.